The morning sun filtered weakly through the blinds, painting thin stripes of light across the modest apartment's living room floor. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, his hands wrapped tightly around a chipped coffee mug, his heart racing faster than it should on an ordinary Thursday. Today wasn't ordinary. Today was supposed to be the day everything changed. The day he would finally get a chance to climb out of the constant struggle of juggling 3 part-time jobs, overdue bills, and the never-ending worry about whether his daughter, Lily, would ever feel secure again. Today was the day of the interview he had dreamed about for years. It wasn't just a job. It was his chance at stability, his chance to prove to himself and his little girl that he could give her the life she deserved. But life rarely cooperates with dreams, and Daniel knew that better than most. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, leaving him to figure out fatherhood and grief all at once. The late nights of rocking Lily to sleep through her tears, the early mornings of packing lunches and trying to smile when he wanted to break down himself, it had all hardened him, but also softened him. He had learned what resilience really meant, not in big victories but in small, everyday choices to keep moving forward when it felt impossible. Still, this job interview was different. It was with a prestigious tech company, one of the few that offered flexible hours and family benefits, things that could change their lives overnight. He adjusted his tie in the cracked mirror by the front door, his hands trembling slightly. Lily peeked around the corner, her wide brown eyes shining with excitement. "Daddy, are you going to get the job today?" she asked, holding her stuffed rabbit close. Daniel crouched down, forcing a smile even though nerves gnawed at his stomach. "I'm going to try my best, sweetheart. That's all anyone can do, right?" She nodded and kissed his cheek, leaving a faint smudge of strawberry jam on his skin. That tiny gesture of faith filled him with warmth, and he promised himself he wouldn't let her down. The subway ride downtown was crowded, but Daniel barely noticed. His mind rehearsed answers to possible questions, his fingers drumming nervously against his briefcase. He imagined the relief of calling his daughter later to say, "Daddy did it. We're going to be okay." The train screeched to a stop, and he hurried up to street level, the gleaming towers of the city rising like giants above him. The office building where his interview would take place was only a few blocks away. He checked his watch. He was on time. For once, everything seemed to be falling into place. And then he saw her. Just ahead, near the corner of Fifth Avenue, a woman struggled with a flat tire on the side of the road. Dozens of people passed by, eyes fixed on their phones or the pavement, too busy to notice or too indifferent to care. But Daniel noticed. She was dressed in a sharp navy suit, her hair pulled back in a bun that was beginning to fray with the effort of loosening lug nuts. A hint of panic showed in the way she bit her lip, and her eyes darted between her watch and the immovable tire. She was clearly running late for something important. Daniel's steps faltered. Every second he spent helping her meant risking his own future. The clock in his mind ticked louder and louder, echoing his daughter's hopeful voice. "Daddy, are you going to get the job today?" But then he saw the woman's hands shake as she tried again and failed. He remembered all the times strangers had ignored him when he was the one struggling, trying to juggle groceries, a toddler, and exhaustion, wishing someone would offer a hand. He couldn't be that kind of person, not when it mattered. Taking a deep breath, Daniel rushed over. "Excuse me, do you need help?" he asked. Relief flooded the woman's face as she nodded. "Yes, please. I'm already late, and I can't get this thing off." Without hesitation, Daniel dropped to his knees and got to work. Years of odd jobs had taught him more about cars than he cared to admit, and within minutes he had the spare tire fitted and secured. His shirt was streaked with dirt, his palms raw, but the gratitude in her eyes made him forget it all. "You saved me," she said breathlessly. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." Daniel shook his head, forcing a smile even as panic churned inside him. He checked his watch. He had just blown his chance. The interview had already started. He swallowed hard, fighting the sting of disappointment. "No need," he replied softly. "Just pay it forward when you can." He turned quickly, not wanting her to see the heartbreak in his expression, and walked away. By the time he reached the building, the receptionist shook her head sympathetically. "I'm sorry, sir, but the panel has already moved on. They won't be able to see you today." Daniel nodded numbly, thanked her, and stepped back onto the bustling street. The dream he had clung to for months crumbled quietly, leaving him with nothing but exhaustion and regret. That evening, as he cooked a simple dinner for Lily, he tried to hide the disappointment in his voice. But children sense things adults try to bury. "It's okay, Daddy," she said, reaching across the table with her tiny hand. "Even if you didn't get the job, you're still my hero." His chest tightened, tears threatening to fall. He hugged her tightly, whispering, "As long as I have you, that's enough." Days turned into weeks. Daniel kept working his odd jobs, pushing through fatigue, never mentioning the interview again. But one morning, an envelope arrived in the mail, embossed with the logo of the very company that had once held his dream. Confused, he tore it open. Inside was a letter inviting him to a second interview. No, not just an interview, but a private meeting with the CEO herself. His heart pounded as he read it again, disbelief flooding him. When he arrived at the towering office, nerves threatened to undo him all over again. The assistant led him into a sleek conference room, and there, waiting with a warm smile, was the woman he had helped on the street weeks before. He froze, recognition slamming into him like a tidal wave. She rose and extended her hand. "Mr. Carter, I believe we've met before. I'm Amelia Hughes, CEO of Hughes Technologies." Daniel's jaw nearly dropped. Words tangled in his throat. She laughed gently, easing the tension. "That day, you gave up something important to help a stranger. You had no idea who I was, no guarantee of any reward, and yet you chose kindness over self-interest. That's the kind of integrity and compassion this company values above all else." She leaned forward, her eyes kind but sharp. "Tell me, what drives you, Mr. Carter?" And so he told her everything. About his late wife, about raising Lily alone, about the sleepless nights and the desperate hope that he could give his daughter a better life. He spoke with raw honesty, his voice breaking at times, but he didn't hold back. When he finished, silence filled the room for a long moment. Then Amelia nodded, her expression soft. "You are exactly the kind of person we need here. Welcome to Hughes Technologies." The offer that followed exceeded anything he had dared to imagine. Flexible hours, health benefits, a salary that would cover not just the bills but allow him to save for Lily's future. For the first time in years, Daniel felt the crushing weight on his shoulders begin to lift. He left the office with tears in his eyes, his heart overflowing with gratitude. When he told Lily the news that night, she squealed and hugged him so tightly he thought his heart might burst. "See, Daddy, heroes always win in the end," she said, her innocent faith shining brighter than any city skyline. And Daniel realized she was right. Not because of luck, or timing, or even the unexpected twist of fate that had put him in the CEO's path. But because he had chosen kindness, even when it cost him everything. The challenges didn't vanish overnight. There were still mornings of spilled cereal, bills to manage, and moments of doubt. But now there was also hope, steady, unwavering hope. Daniel learned to balance his new role with fatherhood, and slowly, the wounds of the past began to heal. He discovered that strength isn't about never falling, it's about choosing to stand up again, not just for yourself, but for the ones who depend on you. Years later, as Lily walked across the stage at her high school graduation, Daniel stood in the crowd, his eyes shining with pride. Amelia sat beside him, now not just his boss but his mentor and friend. She leaned over and whispered, "Do you ever regret helping that stranger?" Daniel smiled, his gaze fixed on his daughter's beaming face. "Not for a second," he replied. "Because sometimes, the dreams we think we're losing are only stepping stones to something greater. And sometimes, the very act of choosing kindness in the face of sacrifice can open doors we never even knew existed." Daniel's story became more than just his own. It became a quiet reminder, passed from friend to friend, parent to child, that the world can change in extraordinary ways when ordinary people choose to put compassion first. And though he never sought recognition, his life itself became the greatest testimony, that true success is not measured by titles or paychecks, but by the lives we touch along the way. And so, in the end, the single dad who skipped his dream interview found something far greater than a job. He found purpose, community, and the proof that even the smallest acts of kindness can change the course of a life. not just his own, but for everyone around him. Sparkle's final message for viewers. Sometimes life asks us to choose between chasing our own dreams and helping someone in need. And though the sacrifice feels like a loss in the moment, it may be the very thing that leads us to the future we've been waiting for all along.